Election Watch 2013. I'm your host, Teresa Wippel, and we are here today talking with Randy Hayden, who is running for position 1 on the Edmonds City Council. Welcome.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. I would like to start by asking you to tell us a little bit about your background and why you're running for the City Council.
Well, my background is I'm a business owner, general contractor. I also own a mini storage business, so I'm very business orientated. Why am I running for office? I could give you the typical politician spiel that, you know, I love the city and the city's done a lot for me and it's time to give back, which, and I do love the city, and I have given a lot back to the city. I've spent years at the Snow King Youth Club coaching. I've done a lot for the county, volunteering, feeding meals at the homeless shelters and so on. Being a politician to me, though, isn't really giving back. I mean, it is in a sense, but it's because you have something, an agenda you want to push into the council. And I do have an agenda. I'm not going to tell you I don't. You know, I want to see Edmonds get back on track financially. And being a businessman, I think that's kind of my forte. Like I said, I was a general contractor, and through the recession, I stayed busy. You know, a lot of contractors floundered. I believe that, you know, you need to give your clients their money's worth, and that's what I want to bring to the table to the people of Edmonds, is that they get their money's worth.
Okay. Well, given that and your background, what would be your first priority if you were elected?
Well, my first priority, like I said, it focuses on finances, and that's to see that the money's being spent properly. You see a lot of unnecessary spending, and I think there's some serious cuts that can be made to, you know, we've laid police off, and, you know, one of my priorities is making Edmonds safe. And we really need to get police back hired. You know, a lot of people talk about the parks. The parks are good, but who wants to go to a park if you don't feel safe? So we really need to get our priorities straight, that safety is really the top of the line. You know, bank robbery today, just one issue, you know. We really need to focus on safety.
Okay. So what would be some of the things that you would cut that you think are not as important?
Well, one thing, and I need to look into it, but I believe the city council members have full medical benefits. Now it's a part-time job. In the private sector, part-time workers don't get, you know, medical benefits, and even if I'm elected and I'm offered those benefits, I'm going to keep my private benefits that I take care of myself. I don't think it's the job of the citizens of Edmonds to pay for my medical. You know, there's a lot of different. We could go on all day. I know there's a little neighborhood park right down the street from where I live that they're spending lots of money on redoing it. Now, parks are good, don't get me wrong. But as a general contractor, if I did it the way the city's doing it, I'd be out of work. They shut the park down in May, and it's still shut down. You know, they took all the playground equipment out. If I went into a client's house and yanked out their kitchen and told them I'd be back in 4 months to put it back together, I'd be out of a job. There's just, I mean, there's a lot of little things that add up in the long run.
Okay. How do you think that, and this is a budget-related question, one thing that has been discussed quite a bit is the fact that the city has a lot of infrastructure issues such as streets and water lines and sewer lines that are failing. Streets haven't been fixed in quite some time, and there's no budget to do that. How do you address those kinds of issues, given that, at least from looking at the budget, current budget, which is fairly stable, but the kind of projections, but that's without adding any money for streets. You know, how would you address that issue? Because it does seem to be an ongoing problem.
Well, you kind of have to start with prioritizing what are the most important needs and see what the budget allows for. And I haven't been around long enough to know if there's a possibility of any federal money to help out with some of this. I know a lot of the stuff that's been going on, comes from federal dollars. So, you just have to dig, and I know, I think it's Jerome Peterson has been working quite a bit with Mark Elias on federal dollars on the 99 corridor, and you just need to do the research and figure out, first prioritize what needs to be done, what's the top of the list, and then work your way down.
Okay. And what do you think is the best way to increase economic development in Edmonds? A topic you're probably especially interested in.
It is. I'm really big on businesses. I was really disappointed when here recently the city council voted a parks levy tax on new businesses that would come in and build a business in Edmonds. I really think we need to encourage new business, and the impression I got, they're so worried about trying to get the nickel from these people that they're chasing away dollars. So I think we really need to be business friendly as far as what we can do to encourage businesses. I know of a doctor's business that moved here into Edmonds a few years back, and boy, the city just made his move a nightmare, and he said if he knew what he was getting into, he would have never moved here. He moved from Ballard up to Edmonds, and he was 3 months in delays of opening his business because of the regulations the city put him through.
In terms of remodeling a building or that kind of thing?
Yeah, remodeling,
Yeah.
exactly. He wanted to change the entryway, and to do that, he had to do just a multitude of other things.
Okay, so making sure that the city is more welcoming to business. Is there anything else?
You make the city more business friendly. You bring more businesses in, people spend more money, your tax base increases, and that's where I would definitely focus. And then tourism. I mean, Edmonds is I do a lot of work on Queen Anne, and the people up there just love Edmonds, and they love the small town feel, and I really think we need to focus more so on tourism. I haven't heard a whole lot about, we've got the train station coming through, and why aren't we focusing on bringing people from Seattle up to Edmonds for the day? The cruise ships bring in thousands of people a year. One cruise ship brings in thousands of people, and most of these people come for a week beforehand and visit the city. And we've got the train that, boom, from Seattle to Edmonds, and we could pack this town with tourists if we really focused on it.
Right, okay. What about, and I don't know how much you followed this issue, but the Port of Edmonds had made a proposal for Harbor Square, which involved, the official process was, incorporating the Harbor Square master plan into the Harbor Square master plan into the city's. I've said this so many times, I don't even, master plan for the Harbor Square into the City of Edmonds comprehensive plan. I knew I was going to eventually get that order right. Apologies. So and of course they ended up withdrawing the plan because
I sat in on some of the
the city, the city council didn't seem to be supportive, they felt, so they withdrew it. And now, of course, it's still in the council's hands. They're taking a look at it. They've got a decision tree process where they're taking a look at maybe what might happen. What do you think should happen? Do you think they should maintain it as it is and take a look at what might do with it, or should they scrap it and start over?
Well, that's a tough call. I don't like, You know, in the current proposal that they put forth, there were 5-story buildings, and I myself, I'm not a big on these 5-story buildings. You know, a lot of people, well, gee, you're a general contractor, and you know, and because I am, I know the value of height. It's a lot cheaper to go up than it is to go out. But you start allowing 5-story buildings in Edmonds, and you lose the small town feel. And you know, I had a meeting with Dave Erling, and you know, he talked about if this went through, that the tax revenue would you know, take care of, you know, this deficit, and I'm just not buying it, because I think that if you lose that small town feel, you may get some income there, but you're going to lose it from tourism. A lot of people, you're going to start running the tourism business out of here, and I think that's something we really need to be focused on, is keeping this small town feel. You know, I've heard a lot of the council members say, well, you know, Shoreline's doing this, Linwood's doing this. I moved to Edmonds. I didn't move to Shoreline or to Linwood or to Montlake Terrace because of what we have here. And everyone, you know, talks about the small town feel. Mm-hmm. And if we lose that, it's gone. We will never get it back. So, I mean, my view is that's a gold mine, and that's worth keeping. And any income from these buildings is just not worth it in the trade-off. I would love to see something happen here that doesn't include 5-story buildings.
And do you think the council could get to that point by keeping the existing plan that they're working on now with staff, or do you know enough about it to say?
Well, I think they could. There was a lot of talk that if the council passed the current proposal, that it would allow the possibility of lawsuits for them to pass something with 5 stories, and then whereas the building codes here only allow 3, but from what I understand, that will not happen because of other rulings in court. The Anderson-Issaquah ruling, which kind of says that, you know, councils, they're not, it was put into effect so that councils could make rulings without being afraid of lawsuits. So, yeah, I think, you know, I'm not an attorney, and but I think they could pass the proposal with the 5-story buildings, but still not be held to allowing 5-story buildings. And the proposal they brought forth, the guy who was leading it, he was really sketchy on how he talked about the 5-story building. At one point even said, well, it might be 30 years down the road before, you know, they built them that tall. But being right. Someone in construction, you know, I know talk is talk, and you know, once it's there, it's there.
Mm-hmm. And the issue of heights, of course, has come up before in other interviews that I've done, and I'm just asking everybody the same question now because it did come up once. It is, whenever you say that word, especially if you're running for office, it kind of sets off alarms in people's minds one way or another, and of course there are people on both sides of the issue. But as somebody being, you know, seeking a council seat, and if you were elected, how would you address that issue knowing that it's such a controversial one, and, you know, try to find some consensus, I guess, on how to move forward on those kinds of issues? Because it seems like it's not going away, you know. No, it's always been there. So how do you address it and get everybody to kind of move forward on the issue?
Well, I think you need to really stress the fact, you know, is this what we want? Because like I said before, once you've done it, you can't take it back. And I mean, you really need to look hard and look twice at what you're inviting into our city. And I'm willing to work with people. I've been involved in politics for a few years, and I've worked with all sides of the aisle. In fact, a year and a half ago, I was brought in to help mediate some meetings between the Occupy Wall Street people and the Tea Party patriots, which are the far left and the far right. And because of my record of being a fair listener to all parties, I was actually brought in to help mediate these meetings. I think we had 5 or 6 meetings that were actually pretty productive.
Okay. All right. Well, and that leads us to a couple of other questions. In terms of the kind of the day-to-day workings of the council, some critics have said that the council tends to micromanage city staff too much and issues. Do you have an opinion on that from your observations?
Yes, I think just not just Edmonds, but just about all cities tend to micromanage, and there's just, I think it's like they're almost making more work for themselves. I know here just recently there was talk about a cat law to keep cats inside the house. I think there's already laws that kind of cover that already, but do we really need more laws on cat regulations? I think a lot of this stuff can be left up to the people's discretion. And I'm not big for micromanagement. I'm prefer smaller government myself. So.
Well, and interesting you would bring up the cat law, because that was, it's actually not a cat law, it's an anti-roaming ordinance,
okay. Mm-hmm.
Which cats are now part of. And I've asked everybody this question too, but the council last week voted 6-1 to put cats back in to being included in an anti-roaming ordinance. And that had its own set of controversies. There were a lot of people who came and testified in support of that, but there were also people who were not happy and are still continuing to say they're not happy. They don't think that cats should be regulated that way. Do you have, obviously, smaller government, maybe you don't think we should be dealing with that, but are any other opinions on the matter?
Well, kind of like I said, I think, I currently don't have any cats, okay, but I have had cats. And when I have had cats, they came and they went, that's, I had a cat door, in my back door, and I can kind of see the point, because I've had issues. I don't have cats now, but I've had issues with the neighbors' cats. But is it enough that I think we should do something legally? No, I think that it's kind of, like I said, government doesn't need to have their paws in everything, and maybe they should keep their paws off the cats.
You did not say that. You get the clever award. No, I don't think anybody's brought that into it. That's very, very good on your part.
Well,
That's
it
good.
just kind of
Okay.
fell there. So.
Okay. So another question that we've been asking is about, right now the city has a reserve fund for litigation, which is at about $215,000, and that's less than a third of what the target was when it was set up a year ago. And so the question is that, should that be replenished before we start looking for other ways to use the money? What are your feelings about that?
Well, I would definitely think it needs to be replenished before we I'm big for money in the bank. You never cut yourself short. Being a businessman, I always, I run my businesses off of cash. I do not borrow, and I would hate to see Edmonds get to a position where we had no money in the bank.
Okay. And what do you think Edmonds' greatest strength and its greatest weakness is?
Wow. Greatest strength would be the people here, the community, and just the area. Like I said, I do most of my work is outside of the Edmonds area, although recently I've just done a couple jobs here in Edmonds. But when you tell somebody you live in Edmonds, they're like, wow, I really like Edmonds. And it's because of the people, the community, the small town feel. I would have to say that is our biggest strength. The biggest problem, I think our biggest problem is probably the problem that most cities are facing, and that's just the struggling economy, the downfall of the loss of jobs, the loss of income, and homelessness. I'm a big advocate against homelessness, and I'm on the Snohomish County Drug and Alcohol Advisory Board, and I've done a lot working with these people. And drugs are and they're becoming more so a problem here in Edmonds. Here, 5, maybe 6 months ago, I had a shooting right in front of my house that was drug related. And speaking of drugs, can I say something that I'm promoting?
Sure.
September 7th, Silver Lake. September is National Recovery Month. We are putting together an event. It's sponsored by several different hospitals, Snohomish County. It's a free event, music, speakers. John Lovick's going to be there speaking. Judge Weiss from Drug Court will be speaking. Free food, music, September 7th from 11 to 3. It's open to anyone.
Okay. Well, chances are this probably won't even be on the site until after September 7th, but please send me
Well, then you can cut that.
Please send me the information, because we can certainly
I
put it
will.
on our website.
I
If there's
will.
any Edmonds people involved especially, we want
Okay.
to make sure people know. So thank you for that. So the last part of this is that, as we talked about earlier, this is your time to tell people what you would like them to remember you by when they see your name on the ballot. Basically, your kind of closing statement. And also let them know if there's a website or a Facebook page where they can find out more about you.
Well, I guess what I would want people to remember me about as far as my campaign is that, I'm financially conservative, that I've always given my clients the best value for their dollar, and that's what I will bring to Edmonds City Council, that your money, I will focus on seeing that it is spent properly, that safety becomes a priority here, and that we can move forward and hopefully keep that small town feeling that is so important, I believe, to the Edmonds area. You can find me at randyhayden.net. That's my website, and I sure would appreciate your vote.
And your last name is spelled
Hayden.
Okay, very good. In case there's a variation in the
Yes.
spelling, so randyhayden.net. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming in today, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for putting this together.
Okay.